Hola, good morning, everybody. Yeah, welcome to the second day. It's been, a really amazing symposium so far, and, super happy that you're all here this morning as well with us, joining us. My name is Jocelyn Piirainen. I am an associate curator at the National Gallery of Canada in Ottawa. And I'm actually here today more to, sit and listen to these wonderful panelists, kind of hear about their experiences as well. Like I mentioned, I'm here mostly to moderate this talk. I'm really looking forward to hearing, kind of more about your experiences with Inuit Futures, and then also, just what you're doing in your own arts practices as well. So yes, this is the what is the title? Yeah, New Generation of Arts Professionals. Sorry, there's so many panels going on. It's hard to keep track of some of the titles, but New Generation of Arts Professionals. I'm going to start by passing it along to you to introduce yourselves. To get a little bit into what you're doing, what area you're working in, and so on. And we're going to start with Tiffany.
Hello. Oh, there we go. Atitu Uvanga Atira Tiffany Raddi. Hello, my name is Tiffany Raddi. I am an Nuvialuk editor from the Western Arctic, and I work at the Inuit Art Foundation as an assistant editor.
Hi, I'm Kajola Morewood. My birth mother was Inuit from Qinnirajaattuq in Nunavik. I currently work at the Emily Carr University of Art and Design as the Aboriginal Programs Manager.
Hi, I'm Aghalingiak Ohokannoak. I'm from Inuit Cambridge Bay. I'm currently based in Edmonton, going to U of A for anthropology, and I've recently graduated last year from NSCAD University with my BFA.
Good morning. My name is Darcie Bernhardt. I'm from Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories, and I am currently based in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and a practicing artist, and happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So, your experiences then with Inuit Futures, in one way or another, you were all involved with Inuit Futures. First question really is, how was your experience during this? What have you learned? What sort of opportunities came up through your involvement in it? I'll start with Darcie. Yeah, we'll go this way now.
It's crazy to be here because I think it's 2019, everyone. Like, I was part of the first incubation for the Nuit Blanche with Tom, who's also, and a bunch of other artists that were doing that. And it's funny because it was like literally, I was like, that's just a couple of years ago. It's been about 5 years now. So that was really cool. And then that was my first residency in high speed with this. So it was nice to have that opportunity to be this is a pace of a residency, and also just learning a new skill. I've never in that. I collaborated with Tom McLeod, and I created a stop motion video, and mostly my background is painting, and ever since then I've been kind of going back and forth to stop motion and kind of just going in and out of other than painting, which has been cool. And I think that's something that I took from the opportunity. Yeah, so it's 5-6 years. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, this amazing project really did, involve so many Inuit too from across Canada. And then, there were many mentorship opportunities as well. You spoke a little bit about the Toronto Biennale. Just what was that experience like too?
I was at I don't know if I was at Toronto, but I was at the Nuit Blanche. Yeah.
Nuit Blanche,
yeah.
yes.
And that was fun. It was fun to like have an end product and then have the audience come in and out, and also just like have a stop motion video where I'm like, I know how I have an idea to make a stop motion animation, which is also cool, and working with Glenn Gear, and seeing that, and also just like telling a story, which was really cool. So it was really nice to be a part of the audience as well.
We're gonna move down. Agha, what was your experiences like with Inuit Futures?
Like Darcie said, the years go by fast. Way back in 2022 was the big thing that really got things going for me, that Jocelyn was my mentor for, and it was a curated body of work over the course of research over 3 years of Kakinits or Tunits, Inuit traditional tattoos, and it went great. Jocelyn was a great mentor, and it was lovely that the official opening could happen at the same time as a number of other things that were happening. And since then, I've done a lot of other researching and some other curated works that happened in Halifax of my own artwork, based on some more traditional tattoos, and then going back to stuff works from home, which will come up behind me here. Is a lot of stuff that just connected more to my roots back home, and it's just kept flourishing since. But and that was just last year, but since then, yeah.
Amazing, yeah. Kajola, how about you?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what year it was that I did the mentorship, but I worked with Lindsay McIntyre, and she was doing a stop motion animation, and it was all about Inuit identity. And at the time, I was doing my master's at UBC in library and information studies, so I was writing a lot of essays and doing a lot of research and not a lot of making. So it was like this really lovely reminder of how much I like to actually make things and not necessarily research academic papers all the time. And we got to go out into Stanley Park and collect, moss and materials from the park to use in the animation. And then at the end, watching it all come together and actually seeing the film, I almost cried because it was so many experiences of people just talking about those feelings of am I Inuit enough? If I live in the South, what is that like? And I could definitely relate to those experiences.
Yeah, it seems that this was a really great, sort of a program to really connect Inuit from not only the North, but also for those living in the urban cities, the urban towns, the South, really, and then also just continue to connect to those outside of Canada as well. Tiffany as well, your experiences.
Yeah, so I worked as the project script editor for the audio guide that accompanied the inaugural Inuit exhibition at Ohokannoak. And we worked on that from 2020 to 2021, so this was very much remote work, and I got to meet a whole bunch of Inuit and edit their creative responses to works that were shown in that exhibition. There's like over a dozen student responses and many more like mentors, other affiliated Inuit Futures folks, and I edited the student ones. And it was really great to hear the responses from fellow Inuit students, like across the board. It was incredible. Like before then, I'd just been like doing stuff at school, getting to see like other Indigenous folks in my program, but that was about it. Didn't get to edit anyone's work, didn't get to read their work. So this was like a game changer in being able to like not only witness, but engage with fellow Inuit writers, creatives, artists. But it was odd because we didn't get to meet up in person after that event. It was, or how do you describe it? Like, they shared the exhibit, the Inuit audio guide over online over like 2 days. So that was really great to see everyone in that way. It would have been incredible to see everyone in person, but it like was the beginning of a lot of friendships. So
Yeah, that was a huge project for for those who didn't get the chance to see Inuit. Inuit opened up during the pandemic too, unfortunately. And I think that also, it did kind of hinder some of the meetings in person. But yeah, Inuit, it opened up at the Winnipeg Art Gallery in Aghalingiak, as you mentioned, and really it looked at so many different artists too, also from across the world, really. It was curated by a full Inuit team, and yeah, these artist responses then too, and responses then from the curators as well, as part of the audio guide, was a huge project as well, and portion to the exhibition, and it was really important. And yeah, I guess working on that then too, you got to know so many more different artists, and tying that to your work now as well. Working with the Inuit Art Foundation. What has that journey been like then too, to kind of transition into editing then with IAQ as well?
Yeah, so the audio guide was a really great kind of introduction to editing, because I then stepped into the role of copy editor at the Inuit Art Quarterly. So that was very much like attentive to detail, making sure that like people's names are spelled the way they should be spelled, that people were referred to the way they should be referred to, whatnot, making sure that like the style guide was followed within the writings across the board. And I'm now an assistant editor there, so I get to work with authors from start to finish on their works. So it's a much more personal sort of relationship. You're able to chat with these folks and then engage with them to make what they're writing about come to life. And like whether it's an Indigenous author, whether it's a non-Indigenous author, they're all writing about Inuit artwork. So that's really, it's a really special thing to be talking about and to be editing for. So I really enjoy my job.
This panel as well, just all four of you really come from so many different areas geographically, but then also with your own disciplines as well. So yeah, what sort of other connections have you been making then, like through your work? Have you been making kind of international connections as well. I'm looking at you, aha.
Yeah. So, well, it is happening next year at in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I'll be curating another body of works that'll be on oral histories of Inuit, and Darcie's going to be one of the commissioned artists on that curated body of work. And it's really interesting because there's not really an Inuit population in Ann Arbor. So it's a lot different to think of the perspective of not of like people coming to it in a different perspective that's like definitely from outside of the culture itself. So you have to take in consideration of their viewpoint and how to approach some things and make things more accessibilized to understand and not like just leave things up for a lot of more nuanced stuff to make sure that things are processed correctly. That like, and also to give resources that the staff can also forward to anybody that comes up that has questions. So it's, yeah, it's really something to look forward to. And it's also nice because I did take quite a bit of a break other than working on this project after university, because I just had to take a break from our work for quite a bit, other than some personal reasons and just going back home. But yeah.
So in my work at the Aboriginal Gathering Place at Emily Carr, we do a lot of workshops and events, bringing in artists for the students to learn from. And so this recently we went out to Norway for the NASA conference, and that was really exciting. Because of where we're located on the west coast, on the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, we've been very west coast focused. So I'm trying to bring in a bit more Inuit representation. And so last week we held a little Inuit film festival for International Inuit Day, which is today. So. So we had work from Qinnirajaattuq and Lindsay McIntyre and Glenn Gear, and we screened Tautuk Tavut, and we had a reception with Pilk Silk performing. So it was an amazing day to celebrate Inuit culture. We don't have a lot of Inuit students. I would like for there to be more, but that's something that we're working on.
Anybody else want to comment? I feel like Darcie, yeah.
I was trying to figure out the publication that I was a part of, and I'm like, I remember now. But I was part of Circumpolar Connections, which is going to come out this year, and it was I was able to go to Finland for collaborations, and it was like a lot of Sami artists, Alaskan artists, and people from Russia. So I was able to collaborate with other artists and just other Inuit artists there, and then my work is being in their publication, and I responded to one of the writers for the publication, which was really cool.
I don't know, Tiffany, if you had anything to add? Yeah, I mean, no pressure.
Yeah, so through my job, I'm able to meet with a lot of circumpolar indigenous writers often, but like I'm also able to engage with circumpolar Inuit artists and curators, and like with the IAQ profiles, we're able to like interview folks and get a profile up for them on our website. So it's very nice being able to chat with these folks. And with our guest editors at the IAQ right now, we're able to chat with circumpolar Indigenous writers and editors for that. And it's been really great meeting so many people around the world. So.
Yeah, but one of the questions too that I was thinking about in preparation for this was we're at a time right now where we're seeing a lot more Indigenous peoples and Inuit entering into institutional spaces, larger institutional spaces, in organizations. Again with this Inuit Futures program project, obviously that hope is that it kind of spearheads you into these larger galleries as well. I'm just curious as to, have you also been, noticing this kind of rise of Indigenous peoples into galleries and organizations, and what are your kind of hopes then for a future of more Inuit in these places, in these kinds of kind of higher positions, really? I don't know if that was quite clear, but
I can try. I definitely see it in the post-secondary world, more Indigenous folks being brought in as faculty and staff. I think the real challenge is that with some of these institutions, they haven't really fully addressed what it means to be Indigenous in these spaces, and it can be very difficult. I certainly heard of people leaving institutions because of racism and those kinds of experiences. I worked for a year as an Indigenous librarian at a college in the Okanagan, and I was surprised that it's just there's often so much teaching that you have to do for people, which can be hard because that's sort of outside of your actual job. So I think I would appreciate institutions be able to sort of address those kinds of issues to make these safe spaces for Indigenous folks to be in. And I think, we have so much to offer and bring, and I think often we work in a way that is, I like to think, a bit more caring than some institutional practices, which I think can be really beneficial.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about what your interventions are? Because I think we talk a lot about institutions being centers that won't get you, but let's talk about what they're doing so that we can help them, if you don't mind.
Sure. I think we often have students that come into our space and tell us about experiences they've had in the classroom within critiques, and faculty not knowing how to critique Indigenous art. It's like they're afraid of it, and they can make comments that are hurtful, or they don't see some of those traditional art forms as art, and that can be really harmful as well. And I think sort of from that terms of education, we have a presentation that we give to our staff and faculty on request, which is called Indian 101. And it's a history, sort of an introduction to colonialism in Canada. And it's just even giving that presentation can be really hard because there's been, we're covering a lot of difficult topics, residential schools, the 60s scoop, those kinds of things. And to talk about that can be really hard. And I think often people like to, I don't know if they like it, but they expect us to share stories that can be traumatic for us. And then it's like, can you do this again next year on National Day for Truth and Reconciliation? And I would like to see people, maybe these people that attend these presentations, talk about what they learned and how it's impacted them and what sort of changes they're making within the institution.
I can speak on a student perspective, because currently this is like my 7th year of post-secondary. But my experiences at NASCAT, I can speak of this now because I have the degree. But there was a number of different instances, but there was this one specific class that I did fail and had to retake again with the same professor. And it was 19th century art, and it was very Eurocentric, and I failed the class because for some reasons, you can guess, the first time around, and there was no acknowledgement of any other place other than Europe. Maybe interactions with other places of how things ended up there, but otherwise, none. And the second time around, where there was definitely more encouragement to bring in indigeneity into different spaces, and especially in the classroom, other than the land acknowledgement. I was taking this class online this time around, and it felt like a slap in the face. The professor brought up the only anything related to Indigenous work into the class, and it was of this random Indigenous man in the woods, painted by a settler sometime in the 19th century. And I just felt baffled, especially with, like, he definitely has had other criticisms by, like, not including anything else and not changing his curriculum at all. So there was a number of other things that just have to be addressed in an institution, how it reflects onto students, and especially with students that are just fresh out of high school that are experiencing things and not knowing what is not okay and what is okay, or to appropriately address things, and just not sure of how they feel and whether they can even say anything. It's really tough to navigate when you're fresh in an environment, especially coming out of a community where you're surrounded by people just like you, and into an institution where it's like nobody is like you, almost. Or stepping into classrooms where you definitely have to be or are looked at when anything Indigenous is brought up to confirm anything. But other than NASCAD, I have, now that I'm in a bigger money university, the couple of the Native Studies courses I've been taking, they are being taught by Indigenous Métis people, which is life-changing. I'm so grateful. So
much better.
Yeah, it's incredibly better. So, but yeah.
I guess that kind of. I'm gonna switch over then to or kind of go into this next question of the title of this panel is a new generation of arts professionals. So yeah, what does that look like to you? What are your kind of thoughts on this as well, and you know, being included then in this panel as well. You know, what's kind of the future then of this? Who is this new generation? Obviously, it includes yourselves.
I definitely think even within this like time span of like 5 to 6 years and being in these spaces and being in conversation, there's like a lot of like, it's like seeing familiar names in emails or like having these little like conversations and seeing people like in the Inuit Art Foundation or different positions as well. And then I think it's like a gradual thing where like wherever people would like to be, I think it's going to happen in small steps. And it's nice to be a part of that circle and also figuring it out as well. And I think that's really special to have.
I'm gonna call on you, Tiffany.
Yeah, I've been thinking as you've been like asking the question about how like I've witnessed a lot of established artists making room for encouraging and assisting as necessary for emerging artists to find space in institutions and to fill space that's there for them. And I think that that is one of the biggest supports there is. They become a support network. They become someone who can assist you in the very many ways that there are barriers and there are difficulties in trying to access these spaces, and even like just as friends, whether it's like mentor or not, like those sort of friendships are able to make you comfortable enough to step into those roles, step into those spaces. And then it's encouraging because then you want to do that for someone else once you're in those spaces. So I'd love to see more Inuit editors out there. I'd love to get connected with them. I'd love to like meet more Inuit writers and assist them in what it can be like with what an editor does for you, what you can sort of ask of them. It isn't just the editor dictating you, and it shouldn't be. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think I would second that idea of mentorship and bringing people up with you. I certainly experienced that at Emily Carr with our former director, Brenda Crabtree, who was amazing, super helpful for me and making sure that I made it to events like this, and making connections and encouraging me to apply for grants and that sort of thing. And so that is in my work now. That's what I hope to do for other folks. And I think also having more Indigenous people in these institutions can, like, you just have more community and you can share your experiences together, which is amazing, because it's hard to be the only Indigenous person in a department.
Yeah, with the most recent thing I'm doing now, in general, what I'm trying to do now is definitely just give back a lot more to my community and reach out to other artists, and also like purchase as many art as I can. With the recent project I'm doing in Michigan, I was able to get 5 artists commissioned, and so that's really really a big yay for me. Just to have other people like jump on it, and just especially in a place that like it's like I'll be the first Inuit to curate artwork in that museum. So I'm really like just like pushing my all into this project, and but really like focusing on just doing as much as I can to give back little and little, and just pass on like some more like values and teachings that I learned from my tata or my grandfather, and just like giving little pieces that I learned from back home. And there's also a couple of other like Inuit and Native friends that I've made in U of A, and I'm obviously the oldest among them, so I just feel like I'm lecturing them a lot of the time. But it's very like nice to like also like have more of a community ready, because when I first went to Halifax, I didn't really reach out or branch out because I didn't know like I was allowed in those spaces other than with other Inuit. So but like now that I'm branching out like and encouraging other natives to like, yeah, go to this thing, go to that thing, it's like I feel like a lot more like welcomed in those spaces, and making sure those kids get to those spaces too, just so they make their own communities as well and feel more homely. Because like being away from their own communities, like they gotta, yeah. But yeah.
Great. Well, I think now I'll kind of open it up for any questions from you, from the audience, if there is any. Any others?
I'm so grateful that we're able to gather here today and hear from you. Not so much of a question, but more maybe advice, just based on my experience. My mother was an Inuk artist, soapstone carver, well known internationally, and she had me in her will as the executor of her estate, but there was a little glitch in her will. It wasn't a living will. So what that meant is her estate has to go into probate, and now I have to do this whole probate process, copyright her work, so that I can create a foundation. So it's a really long process. So maybe just a bit of an advice when you're doing your will as artists, make sure you look into how your art is going to be protected, especially as you guys get older and have children and want to leave a legacy to your family. Kuya Nami?
Kwana for that. I didn't even think of that. Holy.
Ohokannoak, thank you. I'm really interested in seeing if we can make kind of a program like this in Aghalingiak, Greenland, because I think we need some sort of mentor programs in the arts field for younger people. So what is your advice for me for doing this, for creating this? And also, like, what was your angle? How did you, how were you introduced to this program, or who reached out to you, or how did you find out this was an opportunity?
Well, I mean, I think for myself, again, I was able to mentor Agha as a curator while I was working at the Winnipeg Art Center, Winnipeg Art Gallery, and it was mostly through Heather Igloliorte here, and through the Inuit Futures project, which was I don't know how many years again. 7 years. It was 7-year project, and it was again kind of through that mentorship too that was really important. I felt really really glad to just to have been approached as well to be a mentor, and then now you're kind of stepping into that role too. So I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, because I was just kind of found from a news article that Carla Townton saw of me doing a mural on a swimming pool back in my hometown. And I think from that, I'm just like, post. You never know who's watching. Get your stuff out there, even if it's casual. People might want to pay. I don't know. But yeah.
How about Darcie? I feel like
a similar situation with at NASCAD, and is finding those spaces, and then also Carla being like, hey, you want to come be a part of this, and I think it's just finding those spaces and finding whether that's an institution or like in community, or like I think is important that just echoing what everyone has been saying, but it's just like this shared connection where in spaces like these where we don't really have to explain, and I think that's where things can lead to other opportunities and conversations. Is my advice.
Kind of similar to Darcie and Aha. I just ran into Heather at an art exhibition. I went to the local Alituk Ipili art exhibition opening in Ottawa, and I met Heather, and it's kind of gone from there. So. So I encourage people to go to art exhibitions then. You run into people, networking. Yeah.
Feel free, yeah.
Similar. Lindsay and I work together at Emily Carr, so we know each other that way, and then of course Heather. So yeah, that's sort of how I got into it as well. But yeah, it's just, I don't know.
It all seems to just be pointing to Heather. Any other questions so far?
Hi, I'm just going to throw a challenge, get you thinking. Architecture in Inuit Nunat needs you guys, needs artists. Architecture art has to be more than just token afterthoughts, integrated as token afterthoughts in buildings. Art and architecture should work hand in hand to Inuitize as opposed to indigenize, and Heather knows what I mean about that, but it's something that you guys have to really be active in. I know that you have to be invited by architects and by clients, but it's something that's very important. And I know that we've shared this in Greenland. We've shared this with the Sami here, and it's very important that Inuit identity come. Artists are important. Art is as important as architecture. It can't just be, okay, we've got this building designed and we're going to we're going to hang a print here, do this, do that. It's very important. So I'm just throwing the challenge out there to you and all the other artists out there. We're open for business anyways. And
Well, yeah, I guess a thought just from me too about that too is we are seeing, a number of, new buildings in the north, in these communities that are very much involving Inuit artists from that community itself. I'm looking at you, Aha, because we're from the same community. Inuit, and they have their I'm thinking of chars.
The
even.
Qinnirajaattuq, is it the KA or the Qinnirajaattuq Heritage Society? They're having a new building for the elders there. They're also the ones that make the Aghalingiak coffee, and I highly recommend that because it's my favorite coffee, and I make it every morning and back home. And I know there are like some Inuit that are in post-secondary that are going for architecture, but it's also those who want to be interested in that environment, not just those that are thrown in.
But in the new buildings there definitely is, of course, the local community artists that are involved in creating the spaces.
Yeah, the elders are highly involved in it. I even worked for the construction company that is involved in that building process, and the elders are highly involved in building that center and are there for every step. And there's multiple grants they have for like every part of the building. They even have like lights set up in the ceiling to mimic the Aghalingiak Northern Lights. They have it shaped like as a nice circle, and they're having parts where the elders can go down and like go on the Nuna tundra with like students that or other like people involved to like do community work and have little spaces there. They're putting a lot into that building, and I'm really looking forward to like its official opening. So.
Hello, everybody. I'm speaking as a white guy here, having worked with the Inuit since 1976 in printmaking specifically. My question to all of you, just curious, I put together projects in the past, i.e. with Siberia, with the Inuit in Siberia as an exchange, also in Australia with the Aboriginal artists coming over to work with artists here, Inuit artists here. And my thought is to ask you guys what you think of interaction with other Aboriginal groups, not just circumpolar, but for instance, we're trying to put something together with Oaxaca, with the artists from Oaxaca, indigenous artists. What I'm seeing down there is their tendency is to focus on what sells or for the tourist market. And I'm anxious that there also be the possibility that they express themselves just for the sake of expressing, just as I would too for the Inuit. So we're trying to put the two cultures together, possibly here in Montreal as a workshop type of thing, where they overlap their expression. Just wondering what your thought is about that aspect, about interacting with other communities throughout the world.
Feel free to.
Yeah, it's also very, because as any individual, anybody is just trying to survive in this world, and they're doing what their situation can provide them, and that's why it's so important to get projects and research grants to provide Indigenous resurgence and to have those opportunities for creative freedom. It is really situational, and I can't speak for any one group. So it's very specific as anyone.
Okay, we have another question here from Danny.
Hi, my name is Danny. I just wanted to respond to this person's comment about architecture, and that I have a good friend of mine, an artist, practicing artist, who is a non-binary Cree, and is doing their MA at U of T in architecture. And the realm of architecture is a very white, male-dominated space that is rooted in colonial patriarchy. So rather than the challenge being on these Inuit artists who are doing brilliant, incredible work, I think the challenge is on someone like you to dismantle that patriarchy and to create safer entry points for Inuit artists. But I have a question, actually, and that is, I'm so inspired by all of the work that you do, and I was wondering what aspects of arts work bring you the most joy, that make you excited to tell your auntie about, that gets like the shares on Facebook, like what brings you the most joy to the work that you do?
I'm already thinking. Every time, I don't know if you could see, but every time I call my juju, I'll be like, "You're in a museum." Yeah. You're on Instagram, and every time she like chuckles and she gets a little shy, and there's a part of her be like, and then she would act like she's very like, she's very reserved, and when I call her, she always laughs like, "Oh, where?" And I think those moments where I'm like being able to take pictures of my grandma or paint, I think is honestly my favorite part of making work. And yeah, it's just that type of connection, and then also like letting a piece of everybody see this part of where I'm from and my family, and also thinking about the other. I work in construction recently, so it's very, I'm trying to get the skills to like be in construction, or like how to make a house, or just gathering those skills. And it's very like interesting to like think about what it is to make a house. How do you like even just sharing space, I think is very like interesting to me. So it's just adding to that as well. But yeah, it's mostly my grandma. This keeps me going.
Yeah. You might see, oh, it's right there. You might see with some of my works, like the ones I had up here is my tata fishing, and also my mom pulling me in sled. And oftentimes I go out on the land with my tata back home, and like often go fishing, so it's like a really ingrained in my brain thing to do. And just some snippets of memories of like as a kid back home, and like, well, I guess like everybody's here that experienced Canadian winters, and even more so up in the Arctic, like little kids with how many pounds, as much as them in just gear to wear, and they're just can't walk far, and they're a bit too heavy to just carry the whole way when you have your own gear on. So like you pull them in a sled. So just like little snippets of memories like that, like I think like are just little cute connections, and very, very aggressive kuniks and kisses. But just like a lot of like memories of back home, like is really like I touch base with a lot of in my artwork, and just memories and stories that I grew up with, and just environment of people around me has really rubbed off positively on me. But yeah, just bring little snippets of community back down with me.
I think in terms of like professional work, what I love most is seeing students succeed, and to take on challenges and put themselves out there, and because there's just so many opportunities. Personally, I was adopted, and so about 16 years ago I met my birth family, and that's where I found like my birth mom, who's like was an amazing beater and sewer and creative, and sort of finding that connection with her So when I'm making things, I feel that connection to my birth family.
It's mainly like being able to work with Indigenous authors that brings me joy. They have such a different way of speaking about work, speaking about whatever comes to mind. You really get insight to their worldviews, and like there's like a different tone, I feel, and being able to work one-on-one with Indigenous authors, being like personally and through work, like I like being able to sort of chat with them, find out what they need out of this, what would make them the most comfortable with this experience, and tailoring my editing to that. That brings me joy. It's very like it's kind of the opposite of what I was learning in my degree. Very much like I'm not bringing a standard to them that their writing needs to look like this. It needs to be in this sort of formatting. It's how can I bring your words to light? How can I bring this to your most satisfaction? And just getting a kind of glimpse into their minds through their works is what I enjoy. So whether it's editing works for friends and family or for folks that I'm meeting for the first time, it's very like personal experience, and I feel very honored to be able to do that with other folks. So yeah, that's
Okay. Qanakuhi, everybody. Thank you very much, everyone. Yeah, that is our time.